Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I know the weather isn't too kind out there. I know some of us are still kind of joining in, but we'll go ahead, just kind of do a quick introduction. My name is Alexandria. I'm part of the sales development team here at Connext. And then I have with me my lovely coworker, Evan. So today we are going to be walking through how mobile applications are able to help technicians streamline workflows, move away from those paper processes without adding major complexities or IT lifts. So these can be technicians in the shop, in the field, on mobile repair units, whatnot. Our goal is to keep this very practical, genuinely focusing on the application and how it is used by the day-to-day user. So I will say, if you do have any questions, you can drop them on the chat and we will go through them at the end, as well as you will be receiving a copy of our state of maintenance report, which has a wealth of knowledge in it. You definitely want to check that out, but I will go ahead and kick it off to Evan. But thank you again for joining us today, and I hope everyone's warm out there.
Great. Thanks, Alexandria. Appreciate that. And with that being said, my name is Evan Ufkis, and I work here on the sales team at Connext. Just as a quick background, for those of you who may not be familiar with who we are, we specialize in digitizing and simplifying processes related to asset maintenance, compliance, and of course, safety. While our goal is to help, those in the trucking organization, streamline these workflows, but our primary focus is making life easier for the folks that are actually doing the work in the field or in the shop or anywhere for that matter. And that's really what led us to create iMarq. Now, iMarq is our cloud-based platform with a native mobile app, which I'll be walking through today, that allows teams to track and schedule and, of course, execute all of their maintenance-related tasks directly from a tablet or smartphone. Now, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me for a moment while I get the window I want up here. Let me know if you can see that okay.
It's good on my end.
Excellent, excellent. So right now we're looking at the home screen of, I'm sorry, not the home screen. This would be the login screen for our iMarq application. Just wanted to show this because it's kind of important, because each user logs in with their own credentials. Now, this allows us to tailor the experience, around a mechanic, a field technician, or supervisor's role. And we can also preload the modules relevant to their day-to-day responsibilities. This helps reduce clutter, it simplifies navigation, and of course, it minimizes the number of clicks that you have to do in order to find out what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. Now, for this walkthrough, I will be focusing on the 4 primary modules that a typical user would utilize. And again, in our eyes, that's going to be a mechanic, a technician, or maybe a manager of some sort. And the 4 modules I'd like to highlight today are My Work Queue, New, Pending, and View. So what I'm going to do is jump right into My Work Queue here. So I'm going to load this up. And this is where users are going to find their scheduled or planned maintenance tasks. So right now I can simply scroll through here and find which task I'm in. Notice at the top we have this detailed search bar, so we can actually search by the title of the open task at hand, or you can do other detailed searches here. You can search by a number of different filters, things like the address or the asset, the name of the individual it's assigned to, or perhaps a crew of people, the status that it might be in, and so on. Heading back to that view, so what I want to do is just quickly highlight some of the things through here. So I'll go back through. And this is just, again, loading up the list view. On the bottom, you see there's 2 viewpoints here. Right now we're in list, but we also have the map view. If I select map view, this is actually going to give the user a nice bird's eye view of all the tasks that need to take place that's currently in the work queue. This is especially useful for mobile repair units. They can identify the task on a map and even route themselves to that specific location. Say I'm looking at these 5 tasks up here in this Lancaster area. If I select that 5, I can swipe through and see which jobs are actually located in this area. Because iMarq is a native mobile app, it works seamlessly with the device's GPS. So you can see here that if I hit directions, it'll actually preload up the mapping capabilities and then route me to that location. Now heading back to the list view, what I want to do is actually search for a possible open PM that's assigned to me. So I'm going to come up here at the top. I'm going to go ahead and search for PM and hit search. And again, this is going to filter by all the PMs that are out there to be completed. And I want to select one that's maybe, I don't know, relevant to like this one right here. So we're going to look at this DOT BPM form. So what I can do is here is see all the information that's associated with this task. But notice in the top right hand corner, I want to highlight this key feature because this is a really, really great feature that a number of our fleet customers take advantage today. If I select that button, we call it the IoT button, and it basically is the direct integrative look with this particular ELD. In this case, this is a Samsara device. And what we're getting from that device is things like the VIN number, the mileage, the current location, even things like fault codes, right? So all this great information that's coming in from those devices can be accessed directly from the mechanic or technician, whomever is looking at this, and actually use that for very important information that they need to fill out this form. So heading back, what I want to do is jump right in and start this task. So I'll hit create, and what that's going to do is going to preload up the digital form. Notice we have some key features here built in. We have things like drop-down menus, so we can store your units within like a list view. It allows the users to select from a list of possible assets that they're working on. But we also have the barcode scanner. So if you wanted to scan an identifying number that has that correlates to that unit, they'll be able to go ahead and scan it. Now, for example, I have a little barcode here scanned up. If I just use my camera, I can go ahead and it'll go ahead and scan that exact number. Things like the mileage, the year, the make, the model, all of this information can also be automated if we have that telematics link built in, or if there is information stored within our system that, again, correlates with that asset itself. So with the telematics link, we can autofill the mileage, we can autofill the year, the make, the model. All of this can be automated as well. Here we have the date field. Now, even the fields that you're putting this information in, if I select that, it's going to pull up a date keyboard, right? So now we're also validating what data goes into those lines so that you're not putting in incorrect data, I should mean. So even things like the year, right? The year is going to be a numeric keyboard and so on. As I scroll down, you can see there's more information I can fill in, and each section of this particular PM is broken down into these different areas. Now, it may look different for you, but what we try to do with each and every prospect and customer we work with is to configure this process around your current process so that it matches what the mechanics and technicians are already doing. Now, the best part about that is once it's digitized in our system, you get to be creative and actually find ways to make the workflow better or make it more efficient. Add all these key features in here that I'm talking about right now to make the input a lot easier and more efficient as well. So if I break this down, let's say it's in the approach in cab. This is a basic walkthrough inspection, simply toggling through here, saying whether it's default or it's okay. And notice that we've even included comment fields and photo fields. So each and every line you see here has these options. So the user will be able to add comments. Maybe they found leaks under here. So this is a defect. They can add comments here. by simply typing things in, like I see a leak or something like that. Okay, I can see my comment's been added, or you can go ahead and take a photo of what they're actually looking at. Now, for demo purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and add a photo here. I'll say, in fact, I can even take a photo live. So I'll take a photo here of my mouse as an example. I'll go ahead and use this photo. You can see the photo's been attached up here. And now I can also go back and do what we call circling the problem. This is a feature that all of our prospects and customers currently use. And it's a great way to highlight focal points within the photo to ensure that you're highlighting exactly what is being seen here, right? So like the wheel right here is the issue. That is something that really brings it to life, and it kind of gives the user a little bit of creativity of what they're doing, and also letting other people know what they're seeing. I can hit OK, hit done, done again. And now that photo's been added here.
So Evan, I know you kind of briefly went over our speech to text functionality, but a comment on that, so to speak. Even myself, I find how much more detail oriented and forthcoming information I will put just because I am able to communicate it more efficiently instead of writing it down. But what about for the crews potentially on cross-border or up in our French Canadian territories? How are we able to support them?
Absolutely. Yeah, like I showed before, if you're trying to just enter a comment, we do support speech to text, but we also support that in multiple languages. So the users in these different areas can speak in their native language and actually have the output be in English or any other language that you would like. So yes, we do support folks from all over the world in whatever language that they would like to speak. And in fact, using the microphone here, all I have to do is speak to the device and it'll go ahead and record my notes.
Awesome.
Real-time signature fields, date fields, audio files, and even reference images. Really, it's really up to the users and what it's going to empower them and how it's going to give them more access to valuable data that they need in order to make this task go. We also have geotagging capabilities. Everything you see here can be built into your current workflow as you see it. Now, what I'd like to do is head back to the main menu. I'm going to leave this behind, come back up here, and that takes me back to the main menu. The next module I'd like to highlight here is the new module. Now, for folks that are starting a new task, maybe it's an unplanned work order or something that they need to start on the fly. This is where we can store all of your digitized forms that can be essentially used to start any new task. So what I'm going to do is hit new. And in the top right-hand corner here, we have this search field. This is another drop-down menu. So we can search. I'm going to hit close here. What I want to do is find a work order that's possibly out there to be completed. Let me look for a work order here. For some reason, it's not loading at my work order. Another quick example I can do is use the repair order button. So the repair order is actually another shortcut that the user can use to locate an open work order or start an open work order. And in this case, this is actually a Trimble repair order. This is Trimble is one of our integrated partners that allows us to open up a work order that matches their system. The user can upload the information that they need to upload, parts, labor, services, anything else. And once it's submitted, it'll actually create that work order within the system itself.
Now, is this also something when say its technician is to start a project and then, obviously something comes up, they have to go back to it, or there's another technician that has a different component. How are they able to kind of access something like this?
Well, that's a great question. That's why we have the pending. And in fact, that's a great segue into the next module that's very commonly used, and that's our pending. So the pending is going to be all of the tasks that are out there that have been started, but not yet submitted or completed. So this is where, again, a list view of all the different tasks out there that still have to be completed. All of the data that was essentially taken once those were started will all be saved automatically in here. So all they have to do is go ahead and find which tasks that they need to work on, jump right into it, and then all the data would be already saved. The pictures, the comments, all the input that they put in there will automatically be saved in here. Now, once it's submitted, in fact, let me just do this as an example. Let's do this pre-trip inspection. I'm going to hop in here. Notice that some of this data has already been input, so I can select a unit just to finish this up, put the mileage in. Let's just say it's 25,000. And then we'll just select some of these items here. We're going to sign off on it. And then we're going to submit. You can see it's successful. We created a file that's associated with this. Then we can hit OK. And that brings me to the final module here. Alexandra, did you have a question? Sorry.
Well, I know it might be possibly hard for others to see those little red dots, and you can kind of read that it says required field, but I do think that's kind of important. It gives, management a way to ensure the appropriate fields are being submitted before they're able to get to that stage. I think it's just a little hard to see someone's on like a laptop.
Just as a quick example, I think what you're pointing out here are these little red asterisks that we can configure into the form. Yes, these are required fields, meaning that the user won't be able to submit. They can save this information, but they will not be able to submit it without putting in that pertinent information. So yes, we can validate this throughout the entire form itself, meaning that the mechanic has to put this information in before they finish it or submit it. And the last module I want to show you is the view. So the view is a great historical lookup of all the maintenance history that either this user's done or a group of users based on asset, based on any information you want. But this is going to pull up that information for them to quickly use as reference. They can go through here, view all the photos that were taken on these jobs. They can do, again, detailed searches here at the top to perhaps filter out certain jobs by location or asset, by person, by whatever you'd like, and jump right into that task and actually see all the information that was taken down. It's a really, really powerful module, again, used as a great reference tool, and it allows the users to kind of go back and actually see what was done in the past and what needs to be done, moving forward. Heading back to the main menu, now that sort of concludes the four major modules that are more likely used in the trucking maintenance space. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump right out and ask some questions. I'm happy to address them as we go along here.
I do think it is kind of important. I know we spent a lot of time discussing how the usability makes it easier for this technicians, but as well as just saving time, I think is something that's extremely valuable, giving them more times on tools and less kind of relaying this information back and forth, having to retype it, oftentimes sending themselves photos, emailing it to their personal email, forwarding it to, and then attaching. I kind of find sometimes people get lost in some of those processes and having to tackle them on their own. And then it's not necessarily linked to any specific asset. It's more, it's in there somewhere. Let me go back. Maybe I downloaded it. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do see that's a great point you brought up. I do see a question here in the Q&A. It says, how does iMarq integrate with backend systems so field data flows straight into existing maintenance and ERP tools? That's a great question. What we also specialize in is integrating with existing systems and enhancing and extending those by use of our mobile app. As an example, I brought up the Trimble system before. That's, again, one of our partners that we do integrate directly with. In this instance, it's just an open API connection or web services connection that we can push and pull data directly from that system. So we can do lookups into that system. We can draw data out of that system, and we can also push a lot of this information that's being taken down on the mobile app directly into that system as well. So to put it short, it's just open APIs, and think of our tool as a connect to anything tool as long as those APIs are available.
I'll say, speaking of APIs, I know not necessarily on the ERP side, but some of those accounting softwares, I find that their licensing is so expensive, like, the NetSuite, but being able to have the data flow to the systems, I think is super beneficial without having to add on those expensive licensings that are primarily used for the accounting. But if that's what's, housing inventory and hours and connected with your ERP, I think that alone is extremely valuable to build that bridge and enhance the crew in the field so they can have the same access without having to go through multiple systems to find, a single source of truth.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. I'll just allowing users to kind of maybe wrap their head around some questions that they might have. There is actually one more feature that I'd like to highlight, which is one of our newest features, and that is called iBot. So right here at the bottom, you can see this Ask Me button. This is a direct link to our iBot tool, and this is a similar in concept to things like ChatGPT. iBot allows users to quickly extract insights from their data, whether it's reviewing work orders, identifying breakdown trends, checking maintenance schedules, or even uncovering emerging issues. iBot really turns data into actionable information. You can even use it for work instructions. For example, if I wanted to type in Freightliner Cascadia oil change, I could simply hit go, and what iBot's going to give me is a full breakdown of the work instructions needed to perform this specific task. A very, very powerful tool. I'd love to see what else it can do, and honestly, it's very exciting to see these incredibly useful tools, coming into this market to help, mechanics and technicians get the information that they need and always be up to date with, the latest and greatest, methods that are out there to perform these tasks.
I'm personally more of a Peterbilt girl, but that's just my personal preference.
Absolutely.
Well, Evan, thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to give us this kind of walkthrough, a high-level overview of how we're able to support these technicians streamline their operations. Again, I mentioned you will be receiving a state of the maintenance report. It does have a wealth of knowledge. I think one of my favorite talking points in there is kind of the silver tsunami effect of how companies are able to encapsulate some of this empirical knowledge that some of their older technicians have kind of developed. It's a great article you want to look into reading. And if you have any other further questions, you can always reach out to myself or Evan. So I just want to thank everyone again for attending today, and stay warm in our winter weather storms out there, and wishing safety to all of our drivers over the road and our technicians in the shops and in the field. So thank you again, everyone.